so we have a whole bunch of startups in the lineup, which is really great. We have defined in our last General Assembly a new class of membership fees exactly dedicated to startups, so that this is not a hurdle for startups to be part of IDSA. So if you know of a startup, so they can join IDSA, and the first years are, well, very cheap or even free. So we want to really reach out to startups. They will help to build the future we've been talking about, well, yesterday and today. And, well, we have a great partner in our ecosystem, which really paved the path in Italy. And this is Cefriel. Cefriel, they also run the IDSA hub in Italy, and really proliferate IDSA to Italy and to this great ecosystem over there. And so our contact person is Nadia Scandelli, and well, she's close to IDSA since years. She's a strong supporter of IDSA. Nadia, good morning, and it is really
good morning, Lars,
and to have you here. It's always good to see you. There's so much, well, happening in your ecosystem, and well, that's really great. I don't want to steal too much of your time. It's you to moderate this great session on startups. So therefore, I will leave the stage to you, Nadia. I will watch carefully and interested. I'm looking forward to that, and with that, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Lars, for the beautiful introduction. And let's start with this startup session. Thank you, Lars. So good morning to everyone. Welcome in the startup session of IDSA of this summit. My name is Nadia Scandelli, and I'm the head of the Smart Factory unit of Cefriel. As Lars introduced, Cefriel is the Italian hub of IDSA. We have a long experience in building that ecosystem in Italy, and then we joined the IDSA, proudly joined the IDSA Association different years ago. We also collaborate very often with startups because we support in companies in their digital transformation, in the data sharing challenging in their journey. And we often work with the startup because of their role in the ecosystem, in the fact that they can propose a vertical solution to solve some problem. So the idea today, we are here to talk about data sharing topic, of course, in Europe and in the US market, to discuss trends, challenges, and of course, to discuss about the contribution of startups in this field. So what they can contribute and what IDSA and the association can do for startups. So here with me today, there will be 4 startups, Startin'blox, wetransform, Tributech, and myego. And in the first part of this session, they will present itself very briefly, 5 minutes. And I will look at the watch. And then we will have a panel discussion all together, discussing together about this topic. So I will invite Sylvain Le Bon, the co-founder of Startin'blox. Good morning, Sylvain.
Hey.
Good morning. So please proceed with your presentation. It's a pleasure to have you here.
There you go. Thanks a lot. So it's a real pleasure to be here today to tell you more about Startin'blox and what we can do with the IDSA. We joined the IDSA only recently, but I've been discussing with Antoine Garnier and other people maybe here about what we can do together, and in particular how Solid as a standard can be used with IDS. So basically, the idea behind Solid and the idea is behind the IDSA is similar. It's the idea that there's a new web coming where the data can be shared and can flow from one app and one organization to another. Solid took it from a user perspective, and the IDSA and Gaia 8 took it from an industrial perspective. But it's basically the same thing. And the good news is that those two standards are not in competition with each other. They're totally compatible, and so there's really a lot of things we can do to make them together. And the idea behind Startin'blox is that making a data spaces is a good thing, but the key value is in how you use this data and what you do with them. So once you have these data spaces where the data can flow, how do you make apps that are compatible with this data and can enable the users to take value out of the data? So that's really the thing we're focusing on Startin'blox. And so Startin'blox is basically an app builder that's based on modules that we call blocks, and that help you easily build apps with the features you select and connect them to the data that are compatible with the standards we're talking about. Basically, the value of it is to bring together all the standards of these new architectures and get the most out of it. So by putting together Solid and IDS, the idea is that you can take care of industrial data and personal data in respect with the GDPR. And the data always stays under the control of its owner. And in the Startin'blox architecture, we have a total dissociation of the data and the applications that use that data. It's modular by design, which means that you don't have to rebuild the same features over and over. You can build it once and use it in different applications. So basically, what Startin'blox is just, it enables you to make an app just like a SaaS app, but it stays under your control. So we have features that are already available on an open source logic, and these features that we call blocks can be integrated in any app. So you can be integrated in an app that we deploy on our infrastructure, or you can use it in your own infrastructure, basically. And the data stays on the server, and same thing, it can be on our infrastructure, on any infrastructure. It just has to be compatible with the standards, Solid or IDS. And then the features you use can be improved either by bringing your own features in the Startin'blox ecosystem, or by putting development on the blocks you use. And what we do is to enable people to pay developers to get improvement of the features they use in their app. And then these features can be connected to any source of data, and it can mean you can have several applications that share data with each other. So you can have applications very close to the needs of your users, and these applications can all connect to the same data sources. Or you can also have your applications sharing data with partners and enabling more collaboration with your partners. We have a lot of features already ready to use online. So we have a map, we have a catalog of products, we have a directory of profiles, we have a chat, we have a project management system, and an invoice system, etc. And all these features can be just integrated on a web component base in any app, in any web app. Okay, so that's it, I guess. I'm really looking forward to work with people at IDSA, either to explore how the Solid standards and IDS can be used together, or to explore how we can make apps, like modular apps that can use this data and work together. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Sylvain, for your introduction. And now I call on stage Thorsten Reitz from wetransform, the founder and CIO of wetransform.
Yeah,
Good
thank
morning,
you.
Thorsten.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. So let me just share my screen. Oh, infinite screens, that's always awesome. Okay, that works,
Yes.
right? All right,
Perfect.
well then let's start. Yeah, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for the introduction and the invitation. Yeah, at wetransform, basically what we aim to do is to provide solutions for sustainable data ecosystems. Sustainable, both meaning that we focus on environmental and spatial data, and that of course we don't just want to throw up data and then nothing happens, but rather we want to have a proper ecosystem forming. Let's take one step back. As you probably know, one of the big challenges that we are facing is basically how do we deal with climate change and other challenges nowadays. And the European Commission has decided to make the so-called Green Deal to let Europe become climate neutral one of its high priority activities. And they are saying that interoperable data is really essential for implementing effective green policy. And often the question is, okay, so how could we implement that? And within the European data strategy, the decision was made to define 8 data spaces, one of which is the environmental data space. And for that, again, there is already quite a bit of infrastructure existing, and that's called Inspire as of today. And at wetransform, that's basically what we've been focusing on for the past 5 or 6 years. So we were founded in 2015, and we have since then helped more than 1,000 organizations make their environmental and spatial data compliant to a wide range of standards and put that into an interoperable infrastructure. And from this foundation, we now want to continue basically to also support the data spaces and related activities. So let's have a quick look at how we did that so far. So basically, as our name says, our focus has been on data transformation, on taking data from any kind of source, any kind of format, any type of semantics, and transforming that in such a way that it's then harmonized properly and really usable as one virtual data set, so to speak. And we're doing that through tools that have a very high level of, let's say, automation to reduce the efforts required for data harmonization and also to improve the quality of the outcomes. The second part that we've done is to create a cloud infrastructure, which enables fully automated publishing of all of these data sets that have been harmonized. And now, to actually make the data more usable, we've also been working intensively on automated model transformation. So for example, to get data into a form that's very close to what typical AI frameworks actually expect. Yeah, if we look at how we've deployed that so far, you already see that we are not only building on the cloud, but our customers actually really like to retain sovereignty for some of their data sets. So we have quite a few of the customers that use our public cloud setups, but actually a large amount of the data is on private cloud and on-premise setup. So, and by far not all of that is public as of today, but it would be highly valuable. And if these customers wouldn't have to give up control of their data, but could really, in a fine-grained manner, decide how to share that data, that would be a huge value add to everybody involved. Yeah, so where do we want to go from that? And what role can data spaces play for that? Well, nowadays, we are mostly supporting data providers in like publishing their data in a really easy way, doing the harmonization easily. But where we actually want to go is that users and other stakeholder groups can really benefit from an ecosystem. And each of these groups can capture the value that they want to capture from that. Let's just go to an example to make all these bullet points that are here a bit more concrete. One of the larger projects and initiatives that we're working with is how forest owners can actually deal with climate change. There we have data providers, we have the facilitators like the research orgs that have been noticing that basically all the tree stands are dying because of the high temperatures and lots of other factors. We also have the users, the forest owners like state forests, municipal forests, and forest management orgs. And all of those can benefit greatly if they don't just have their data to look at, but a large pool that everybody can base their analysis on. And of course, into such an ecosystem, you could also have a lot of added value service providers. So yeah, having said that, I want to already conclude the pitch. What we want to do next is the reason why we've joined the IDSA is because we want to build up an environmental data community as, of course, just one of many actors. So please do reach out to us to get involved and, for example, discuss how the exact use cases, like the forestry one, will look like, what roles will there be, how exactly sharing and usage conditions should be, how data can be harmonized. Yeah, and then join us in the regular networking and potential joint R&D projects, and just reach out to us. That's it.
Thank you very much, Thorsten, for your introduction. Then I call on the stage Thomas Planck, that is the CIO of Tributech. Here you are.
Hi everyone. Let me share my my screen, and then I would like to present Tributech and a special use case we set live last year, mid of 2020 with Findustrial. So I'm Thomas, CEO of Tributech, and Tributech is an technology company from Austria, providing a data audit and sharing technology. And since our foundation, 2018, we live and breathe data ecosystems. So we profoundly believe that creating economic value in the future highly depends on a company's ability to use and manage data across company. We are a team of 15 data and tech enthusiasts, and they're headquartered in Linz, which is in Upper Austria. So at first, an overview of the typical challenges we see when implementing new data services and platforms and when moving from prototype to production. The first one is the willingness to share. So the involved participants and operators of data assets want to have the control and traceability. And therefore, it is necessary to provide an end-to-end transparency of the data sharing process. The second one is trustworthy data. So business models for digital services require reliable data that meet a certain quality. So therefore, it is necessary to establish trust in the origin and integrity of the data that is shared across companies' borders. And the third one and most important one, when it comes to deriving economic value out of it, reduce the time you need for the data acquisition, preparation, and the understanding of the most consuming tasks. So with our product, it's called Dataspace Kit. We would like to address these challenges, and it acts as a big backbone for your data ecosystem. So you can use our technology and then build your application and an ecosystem on top. The first part of the kit is the Dataspace Agent, and it enables you to connect physical assets. And due to our support of a broad variety of data sources like devices, sensing modules, backend systems, it is easy to set up and can be done within hours instead of weeks. And the agents signs and hashes the generated data and creates a digital twin of the data source. So the fingerprints of the data are then stored in the integrated blockchain-based trust layer, and therefore provides the cross-company auditability of the shared data. The second component is our Dataspace node, which acts as the gateway for the data. It enables the company to selectively share the data with the other stakeholders by focusing on the aspects of transparency and data sovereignty, so the user gets maximum control of their data. The node can be easily integrated in a broad variety of platforms and infrastructure, and therefore it is easy to extend your data ecosystem and increase the time to value for your platform or your service. And now I would like to show you how our technology can help you to roll out and scale a data platform based on our project with Findustrial. Findustrial is a fintech platform provider, and it enables companies to establish new equipment as a service use cases, especially machine builders. And therefore, the willingness to share the data and also to audit and trust the shared data is key for the success of their business model. So Findustrial enables the customers to easily sell the machines on a pay-per-use basis and not only on a one-off basis. And the challenge is to integrate into the different data sources from the different manufacturers where there is a heterogeneous edge management landscape. We support Findustrial by providing the standardized and automated data ingest path for the relevant data sources of the operators. The data is stored in the infrastructure of the operator, so high control, transparency, and visibility for the operator, so addressing the willingness to share. And then the data is shared with, on the one side, the industrial and the manufacturer. So by using our data space kit, the industrial doesn't have to deal with the connection of the physical assets, collecting the relevant data, or sharing it in the ecosystems, providing the necessary governance, and managing the data across the entire life cycle. What they do is they focus on the development of their service and their platform. They consume the data via APIs, use it for condition monitoring, KPI visualizations, and also calculating the usage, which are then the basis for the payments. Sharing audit-proof data across companies hasn't been easier. It's just one click in our web interface, and I provide you a few screenshots for that. So you can set up easily a new ecosystem in the dashboard, in this case with industrial and the customer, add new data sources, share them within the ecosystem, and the data consumer can easily consume it via the APIs or just visualize it with just a few clicks. If you want to hear more about our technology and how we can support your business case, just contact me anytime, subscribe for a live demo, or just watch our LinkedIn channel, because we are about to launch a playground, especially for industrial and automotive cases in the near future. So stay tuned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thomas, for your introduction. And now I call on the stage Markus Schmitt, that is the strategy advisor of myego.
Yes, hi.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me here. And I'll try to share my screen. So that should work. So, myego is all about self-sovereign identity. We built a data management platform that should help the next step of self-sovereign identity. And for us, it's a totally new perspective, the digital relationship between business and individuals. Nowadays, it's still completely different. Self-sovereign identity, as of now, many people understand ID verification, but it's not only that anymore. You have things like a credit score, you have cars which deliver car data, you have communication data. Now with COVID, you have vaccination proof and negative tests and stuff like that. So, and that's only an extract, so there's much more around all that. And what we are taking care of is all these data actually belong to the user, and why we want to enable those individuals to verify and share their personal data in a secure way, and not delivering all the data and they don't know where it's going. The situation right now is that there is a lot of silo solutions in the market, and for example, if you look at a car, you already have to provide your identity, you have to provide your driver's license, that's another way, and you have to provide some kind of credit score, which is maybe a credit card. And if you want to do that online now, you actually have to have 2 different or 3 different verifications, which is very complex and annoying actually for the user. Same goes in the insurance or finance area, or if you go to a retailer and want to buy or finance, let's say, an iPad, then you have to show your ID, you have to show your credit card, they will do a check and so on. It's a hassle. What we have done is that our platform provides and collects all these data assets and verifies them, but the data assets are stored at the user's phone, so it's decentral. We do not have the data. And once, for example, you want to rent a car, the car rental company requests the identity card, driver license, and credit card at the user, and then he allows to, let's say, either verify or share if it's necessary. And that's a huge difference. Plus, nowadays you have to do that over and over again. If you use such a wallet, then you can reuse all the existing verifications the next time and don't have to do it again. If we look at the, let's say, the product in total, then we have an application layer here on the top. And as I said, you have the user, and the user has a wallet on his phone with all his verified personal data. And that's actually an abstract data space, because you can either use our app, of course, but you also integrate in all the other use cases, like, for example, a car rental or an e-commerce company. Then those companies would connect to the platform, and that's actually the asset of myego, the platform level, through API, SDK, or white label app, and integrate these services. So whenever you're a car rental or another e-commerce or mobility, you can simply use the data that you have already verified. Just to give you an idea of where we are now, this is an extract of the data assets that we can provide verified, and we are totally open for new ones. So in the KYC, that's the typical ones. Finance area, we do an IDSA, we do cards, we do PayPal. In the credit area, also a budget analysis if you want credit score on a rent or stuff like buy something, etc. We have the legal area with that, the monetary pack, budget analysis, and many more. Of course, if you have the vaccinations, for smart, you have student city cards, and so on. Put all these assets in the wallet, reuse them often as. Look at the fields that are existing for us. Of course, it's event and access topic. The smart city government area is huge. That's actually the best synergy you can have. Automotive, to smart city, insurance, and e-commerce. That's the core use cases. And finally, why is it interesting to use myego? It's a very user-centric and transparent platform. It's an excellent user experience because the user can always use the verified data again. It's decentral, so there is no worry use of the data by somebody else. It's an open platform. You can connect with APIs and so on, so you don't need our application. You can integrate it in your own one, and hence it's fully scalable. On a security level, we also added the blockchain connection, so we store hashes of the verified data so that they cannot be changed, otherwise we would realize. And we are totally independent of any ID providers, so we are open for anything that comes. Like a year or two ago, we had COVID coming on, and we simply could integrate it. So that's, let's say, a short version of all the benefits that we can provide.
Thank you very much, Marcus. And then let's go to the discussion part of this session. So I asked to all the panelists to come on stage, open their webcam. Perfect. So let's start with the first question for you. So some of you already talked about challenges about data space. I would like to ask you, which is the biggest challenges in the field of data sharing, data space, data sovereignty at the moment, and what could be really the contribution of startups to advance in data space and then on data sharing topics in order to solve this kind of challenge?
Well, I can start if you like, or how do we do it, with a hand, or?
That's fine. That's fine.
Well, I think it's the main thing for us from our perspective is actually that the mindset currently is towards centralized data. So everybody wants to collect data, own the data, and work with it. Okay, and this is of course totally against the sovereignty of the data, and that's why we think this change mindset when it comes to personal data, central to decentral, is one of the things that we face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for us.
Thorsten?
Yeah, that's certainly one thing. So the mindset basically about understanding that you don't have to own something to benefit from it. Yeah, that's certainly something. It goes more towards actually building up an infrastructure and then being able to utilize it for decades or centuries, and not about walling off some stuff, I guess. Other than that, for us, the main thing that I notice is the inability of the current data owners to actually decide how they should share their data, and also to come up with the appropriate license conditions. So there's still a lot of education to be made on that end. So quite often we actually ask, yeah, could you share your data, that particular aspect for this and that use case? And then you trigger basically a thought process on their end that doesn't come to a fruitful conclusion. So I think there's also a lot of work still required on that end.
Yes, true. Good. Thomas?
Yeah, one of the challenges we see is it's not a technical challenge. It's more like the getting from the discussions, concept papers, POCs, MVPs into production cases to really prove the economic benefit of data sharing itself. Because if you can prove that there can be huge economic benefit for a company when sharing data, yeah, it's would be a no-brainer for them to just follow the path and continue the discussions.
Yes, true. This is also another good point. So it's an education point. There is different things. So technical things. How the people see the data sharing. They want to share data, they don't want to share data, they want to know the condition. And also they say company are not sharing data because it's fancy or it's they wanted to have a clear idea of the benefits and also of the economic value of this. Sylvain, do you want to add something on this topic?
Yeah, I guess I'll mostly agree with what has been said. As I said in my presentation, I think there's something that's not discussed enough, that is how the data is used and how you bring use cases to the data. And on the rest, I agree with the other people.
And do you see that the startups, how can help in these three domains? So in the education, in the, let's say, in the technical part, and to prove the economic value?
I don't know if I'm the one to talk. So on education, I'm not sure if the startups are the best because they're small, so they don't have the same impact, but they can do proof of concepts. And same thing for I guess it's by the example that startups can bring things. We can easily put use cases on this page with a very little investment, and we're very agile for that. And so I guess that's the main thing we can bring.
From our perspective, it's also that startups, they have the chance, the unique chance actually, to try to be bold and new things and try things quickly and bring them to the market. I mean, for Google, it might be, for example, much more difficult to make a complete change and, for example, going from central data to decentral. That's totally against the business model. Small startups, they can just try these things and bring them to the market.
Yeah, I can agree with Marcus. So startups most of the time can execute on a faster pace. There's no huge office politics or company politics involved, so they can try new things in a faster pace and therefore validate use cases, which can then be shared with the community and with others, and might be of interest also for larger companies, which are, most of the time limited.
Yeah, I think in the environmental in particular, we currently have the challenge that there is actually a lot of data available from various sources, but it's very fragmented. And a lot of the data owners actually question whether that data should be made accessible and whether that's really a value add compared to just having a nice app for the weather or something like that. And so in our experience, actually, as a startup, what you can do is to show that this data can actually be used in many different ways. And just on Monday, I saw a presentation from the Danish agency on data supply, and they listed a large number of cases where startups used data as soon as it was available and could be shared in such a wide range of ways that it was really a surprise to everybody. Like, for example, a company that actually sends window cleaners to different places looked at aerial oblique imagery to make a quick estimate how much time they would need to spend. And then they automated that process even, yeah. That's something that nobody expected from that type of data. And I think that's kind of common, that you can, as a startup, really look at things in a new way. You can increase the value and even exceed the expectations of the data owners in quite a wide way.
It's really interesting, the things that you said, because so we can see the contribution of startups in two main things to drive. So the speed to bring a solution to companies, let's say, to prove the value and to start doing something, okay, without any constraint or legal or big stuff on behind. And the other point is the fresh, the fresh that you can bring in order to show how things can be done, how data can be used, and to show also in a different way as the usual things of doing data management. And I have another question for you, because when Marcus was describing about the data sovereignty, okay, the standard, I think this is a very, very huge topic, very hype. That is a big hype on this in these months. For this, everyone wants to know about their data, personal data, and also industrial data. Want to know how to use the data and how other people are allowed to use their data, how to access, how to use. So I would like to understand what is the impact of these new, let's say, not trends, but this of the topic on your startup, taking into consideration this, how you are changing maybe your business model. Are you thinking to offer new services maybe to address these needs? And if you have any insights about the market of this about these trends.
I think the differentiation you have to make is between personal data. I mean, personal data, your name, your where you address and stuff like that, and your bank account on one hand, and let's say other data where it makes sense to share it or to use it for a greater good, like in Thorsten's case, for example. I think it totally makes sense if you share climate data and this stuff, but in our case, it totally doesn't make sense if everybody knows my bank transactions, right? So these are the two different data spaces. One which makes sense is public, the other one that makes sense is private. But the question was, how does it change things for the startup? I mean, since it's the core of our business to have data sovereignty, it doesn't change, it just helps us the discussion going on.
Yeah, maybe briefly to add to that. So for us, it's pretty much the same. So when we started about 5 years ago, things like data sovereignty and the ability to basically deploy as the client needs, and also the solid principles actually have been things that we had on our agenda from the start. And so I'm really, really happy to see basically these things to scale and become almost mainstream topics now. So for us, it's basically an environment that helps us, I think.
Yes, same for us at Tributech. So we built our whole value prop and product around these trends. So the current development helps us in our go-to-market.
And do you see any difference about the European market and the US market related to this topic? Because in Europe, there is a big, let's say, hype on this, so everyone is interested in data sovereignty. Is the same in the US market, as you know?
Well, we see a huge difference, to be honest. Simply about the data sovereignty in our case, the US is a complete different, but if you look at Google, it's all about collecting data. If you look at all the large enterprises, it's about collecting data, storing them central, and so on. Actually, it would completely destroy the business model if they would go for data. What the US do is very nice because they have a strong towards data sovereignty. So personal, that's very positive. So I think the US, they want to do business in Europe. They depend on applying with these rules, let's say. We see a very good chance to serve the US market, let's say midterm at least, but in the long term for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it will be highly interesting how it will play out in the next few years if the US players have to deal and adapt to the European guidances and regulations, if these trends then also move to the US and then also kickstart the discussions and the visibility of these topics there.
I think the key principle of actually being able to share data without giving up control applies also to quite a bit of industry in North America. I mentioned the forestry case, for example. There are similar structures, albeit at a different scale for Canada, for example, where you have much larger companies. But again, everybody only has their own data to look at. They would certainly also benefit from an approach where they could pool data for building ML models and the like. That being said, the regulatory environment is quite different, and also the company structure. So it's certainly not copy and paste everything. It's take the pieces that work and then see if we can also go there, basically.
Okay. And okay, so yeah, the US market, it's really different. I think also that the people are thinking there is a regulatory, let's say, environment that's completely different. And I think that it's interesting to understand if the next months, in the next years, they also will converge in a, let's say, with an European vision of the data sovereignty or not, because at the moment they are completely opposite or something like that. But it would be interesting to understand how this will evolve in the next years. The perception of this kind of topics. Let's go to the last question for you. So, as we said, the first question was what can you do for the data space, for the association, and the last question is what you will need from the community, from the IDSA association to help you in your business, in your growing. So, and again, what can startup do for the association on the other side? Sylvain, do you want to say something?
Sure. Yes, same thing as I said in my presentation. I think that there's a very good environment in IDSA in terms of partners and in terms of people who have visions of what they should do with data spaces. So, yeah, I think that's the interest we have in IDSA. So we're looking forward to have partners and like find use cases that can be interesting in the industry where we can add value. So, like maybe make a proof of concepts or find like build projects together to get a grant or something like that to make research and development together. That would be, I guess, what we're looking forward to having.
So in our opinion, what's key for startups is visibility within the community, and also the connection to the relevant stakeholders of the major players. So there's the large corporates, so how to find the right contact persons, because it sometimes can take a few weeks until you find the right contact person to discuss your topic with them. And what can startups do for the community? So we at Tributech, for example, are setting up a playground at the moment where companies can easily participate and test and validate quite easily. So this will be our contribution to accelerate the way to new use cases and proving economic benefit.
Thank you, Thomas.
From the side, I could imagine that since the topic is becoming more public, here in Germany, the government says it's the year of the self-sovereign identity, and even the chancellor is stressing on that. I could imagine that it's difficult for large clients, for corporates, to find a solution for these kind of things, because there's so many possibilities. You could Google it, yes, but if you have the ideas, you could actually play a central role as the contact for any industry actually that is searching advice and searching solutions in the area. So I think you could be the connection between those clients or potential clients and us, that would be fantastic. What we could, of course, deliver per those sections, our section being the SSI stuff, is, of course, the use cases for different industries so that they find themselves and then they can contact us. So that would be a nice, also moderating role that you could have.
Thank you, Marcus.
Yeah, I think from my end, I'd probably start with what we could offer, so to speak. And I've realized in the last day or so how much data harmonization actually plays a role across all the different communities and use cases in the IDSA. And I just want to call out, so that's basically our specialty. That's what my co-founder and me have been working on in 15 years. And maybe the things that we have been doing for those 1,100 organizations for environmental and spatial data might also apply to other areas. So we have applied it to transport, logistics, etc., and other things already. So it would be really interesting to get into a discussion more or less about the tools and methods that we have there and see where they're applicable. I think in terms of what else we can do together, so the IDSA as a place for basically for an environmental data community, as I mentioned, that's something that I would really like to see growing. I know that the focus in the past was on industry and health and a couple of other issues, but environmental issues are kind of adjunct to that and will play a large role in decision making at all levels. There's going to be much stricter regulation about emissions, for example. So I do think it really makes sense to build up a community that discusses things like what are the use cases, how do we actually share, for example, data on emissions and all the contextual data in the future. And so I would be really happy to see this grow within the IDSA.
Thank you very much, Thorsten. So I think that it has been really a pleasure to get in touch and know all about your startups and on the things that you are doing. I agree with you. Startups are really important to, let's say, to help company to validate and accelerate things and to find solution. And I think that you can play really a role in the IDSA community in growing, let's say, the community and also to provide technical solution and help IDSA bring IDSA on the market. So thank you very much for having me here today.
Yeah,
thank you, everyone.
Thanks, all of you. Thank you, Nadia, for moderating. Thanks for all the great input. We will review the session and, well, derive all the great input and ideas, so to really make it happen. So we've started this reach out to startups, and we really want to make that happen. So I take take this as an action item, like, well, we have IDSA community, so why not have one with a focus on environmental issues? Right, absolutely right. I noticed several other issues. So this self-sovereign identity, this is key in Gaia X, and it will also be part of the reference architecture version 4. So I think it was Markus, you mentioning it. So I would really love to involve you in that regard. Combination of solid and IDS concepts, we are already working on that. So I would also love to add you to that stream. And it was Sylvain, I think. So, well, a lot of things to do. So we will do the aftermath and, well, really interweave you deeply in IDSA. It's great to have you on board, and well, let's do great things together. Thank you so much. That was a great session, and for me, a great inspiration. Thanks a lot.